Everyone, again, I am back. No, so we have to move on with our discussion on English grammar. So before I start my lecture, a short lecture for today, I'd like you to do pop quiz for B1 and for B2. Okay, this is the last part or last quizzes of chapter 4. Then by next week, we proceed with chapter 5 on adjectives. Clear? So far? So today we will be finishing our discussion on verbs. So we proceed with chapter 5 by next week on adjectives. Clear so far? Okay, your assignment is for B1 and for B2. Okay, I'd like to go to this board now for my discussion about verbs. We are still on the concept of verbs, no? So last time, I talked about forming we have two new tenses that I'd like you to research on. The first is the present continuous tense, no? This I know that you have researched on this. Present continuous, the other term for continuous would be progressive. So if you say present continuous, we also refer to the present progressive tense. No? And the second tense that I asked you to research on is the perfect tense. Okay, so by this time I know that you already know these tenses. Okay, I'd like to proceed now with how to form. Although I discussed this already before, but I'd like to repeat how we form the so-called future tense. No, future tense. And when we talk of the future tense here, for purposes of this class, we are talking of the simple future tense. Now, how do we form the simple future tense? Well, of course, give me a verb. When I say give me a verb, it has to be infinitive verb, infinitive form. So, give me a verb, say, to wash, no? To wash your clothes, to wash, to deliver, say for instance. Then to buy, no? So these are, if you could see, if I ask you give me a verb, it has to be in the infinitive form. When I say infinitive form, there should be the word to before the action word. Okay? So here, infinitive form, the first thing that we should do in order to form the simple future tense would be to get the base form this time. No? The base form of the verb. What's the base form of the verb? The root or the stem or the simplest form of conjugating the verb. So here the base form would be wash. The base form of deliver is deliver. And then the base form of buy is buy. So what do you do here? After getting the base form of the verb, what do you add in order for you to form the simple future tense? Well, it's your choice. You have to add helping verbs, either will or shall. Right? Now, there is no difference whether you use this or you use that. No, it depends on your discretion. So, in order to form the simple future tense of to wash, no, you just have to add will wash or shall wash. But it's both are correct. To deliver, you just have to add will to deliver, will deliver, or shall deliver. Now to buy, will buy or shall buy. Now the negative form of this, how do you form the negative? Well, you just have to put a not there, no? will not wash. No? You just have to put the what, not, will not deliver, will not, no? And so on and so forth. Diba? That is as easy as just putting the word not after the will. Okay? So may I erase this now? Now, before we proceed to the next topic, when we say simple future tense, the future tense, we are talking about events or something that has not occurred yet, or a state of being that is not yet existent. Okay? So that is what? Events or circumstances that are to happen. No? It has not happened yet, but maybe it might happen, or state or condition that does not exist yet. That does not exist yet. Okay? So may I leave this now? Because let us take the last topic, which is an introduction of what we call, of course, when you conjugate the verb, especially in the past tense and past participle, you need to distinguish what are the so-called regular verbs as opposed to what we call irregular verbs. So remember that these are two types wherein you cannot do away without, no? Regular verbs and irregular verbs. So what are regular verbs? No, they follow, the regular verbs follow a typical pattern. And what pattern is this? What pattern are those? They do not follow a typical pattern. And the pattern are those you put suffixes ending in D, ED, or IED. Diba? We have taken this before. So if they follow this pattern in the formation of the past tense or past participles, past tense or past participle, then they are regular verbs. Irregular verbs are those verbs that do not follow this, no? That do not follow a typical pattern. Clear so far? So let's take, for instance, remember this. Regular verbs are those that follow a typical pattern when forming the past tense or past participle. Irregular verbs are those verbs that do not follow this pattern. Okay? This is just a review anyhow. So let's take some examples for you to easily understand. Now, say for instance the verb conserve. To conserve, rather. Is this a regular verb or irregular verb? Huh? Of course, the past tense would be conserved. You just add the D. And the past participle is also conserved. Usually, for regular verbs, the past tense and past participle are the same. Remember that, no? The past tense, here, this is the past tense. And the past participle are the same, no? So another example, you just add the D, right? Get that? You just added the D. Now, what if your verb is to pray, for instance, to pray? So the past tense of this verb, to pray, is prayed. And the past participle is also prayed. No? The same. So these are regular verbs. Let's take another one. To try, for instance. To try. So the past tense of to try, the verb to try is tried. So you added IED. You drop the Y, then I add the IED. The past participle is also tried. So in short, these are all what we call regular verbs which follow a definite pattern. And the pattern that I'm saying is adding ed or adding IED to form the past tense and the past participle. Okay? So we go now to what we call irregular verbs. What did I say about irregular verbs? They do not follow a definite pattern in forming the past tense and past participle. Okay? Let's take for instance the verb to know. To know. Okay, you give me now, I told you that these verbs, irregular verbs, we are now on irregular verbs. They do not follow a typical or regular pattern. So the past tense of to know is knew. The past participle is known. No? So this is the past tense. This is the past participle. What did you observe about this? No? Hindi siya, you did not add D, ED, or IED at the end of the word to form the past tense or the past participle. Okay, let's take another example. To draw. To draw a certain picture. So what's the past tense of to draw is drew and then drawn. No? So this is almost the same. No? So did this verb follow a typical pattern? The answer is no. Okay? Another irregular verb, to sing, for instance. To sing, past tense of to sing is sang. Remember, A, sang. That is pronounced as sang. Then past participle would be sung. Okay? Also, this verb did not follow a typical or regular pattern. What else? The verb to put. This is also an irregular verb. To put, past tense of to put is what? Anyone? Past tense would still be put. Past participle would also put. Did not change. Clear? Okay. Another example is to set. To set. So what is the, do not say past tense of to set is setted. That is wrong. Past tense would also be set. Past participle would be the same. Set. Did not change. So do not say setted. No, or putted. That is wrong. Okay? Clear? How about to read? To read, past tense, well, read. The pronunciation is not read, but read. Read. Just like the color red. No? But the spelling is still this. Past participle would also be read. No? Does not change at all. Okay, so what do you observe for all these irregular verbs? They do not follow a typical pattern. Now, is there a technique? There is no technique. It's up to you to memorize the past tense and past participle of the different irregular verbs. Clear? So, I cannot help you with the irregular verbs. They do not follow a typical or definite pattern. I cannot help you with remembering. You have to memorize all the past tense and past participle
of irregular verbs. Okay, that is all for today.